Title: The Airbnb Killer. Chapter 1: The Arrival. The small, picturesque town of Elmwood had always been a place where strangers felt at home. Nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York, it was known for its charming Victorian houses, lush parks, and friendly locales. Tourists often flocked to Elmwood, seeking a peaceful retreat from their bustling city lives. And in recent years, the advent of Airbnb had brought even more visitors to this serene town. Julia Stone, a successful software engineer from New York City, needed a break. The pressures of her job, coupled with a recent breakup, had left her feeling drained. She decided to book an Airbnb in Elmwood for a week, hoping to find some solace in the tranquility of the countryside. The house she chose was a beautiful, old Victorian manor that had been recently renovated. The listing boasted stunning views, modern amenities, and most importantly for Julia, complete privacy. The host, a man named Thomas Green, had stellar reviews, all praising his hospitality and the pristine condition of his property. Julia arrived in Elmwood on a sunny Monday afternoon. As she drove through the town, she couldn't help but admire its charm. The main street was lined with quaint shops and cafes, and the locals greeted her with warm smiles. She felt a sense of calm wash over her as she pulled up to the Victorian house. Thomas Green was waiting for her on the porch. He was a tall, thin man in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and a friendly smile. He greeted her warmly and showed her around the house. Everything was just as it had appeared in the listing, if not better. Julia couldn't wait to settle in and start her week of relaxation. After a quick tour, Thomas handed Julia the keys. "If you need anything, don't hesitate to call me," he said. "I live just a few miles away." Julia thanked him and watched as he drove away. She felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. She unpacked her bags, made herself a cup of tea, and sat down on the porch to enjoy the view. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. It was perfect. Chapter 2: The First Night. As night fell, Julia felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She decided to take a long, hot bath before bed. The bathroom was luxurious, with a clawfoot tub and scented candles. She soaked in the tub for what felt like hours, letting the stress of the past few months melt away. After her bath, she put on a pair of comfortable pajamas and climbed into the large, cozy bed. She fell asleep almost immediately, lulled by the quiet of the countryside. In the middle of the night, Julia was jolted awake by a noise. At first, she thought she was dreaming, but as she sat up and listened, she heard it again. It was a faint scratching sound, coming from somewhere downstairs. Her heart began to race as she tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was just the house settling, she told herself. But the noise persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Julia got out of bed and tiptoed to the door. She opened it slowly and peered into the dark hallway. The scratching sound was clearer now, and it seemed to be coming from the front door. She crept down the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached the bottom, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The front door was slightly ajar, and the scratching noise was coming from the other side. Summoning all her courage, Julia stepped forward and pulled the door open. To her relief, there was no one there. She looked around, but the street was empty. She closed the door and locked it, feeling a little foolish for getting so worked up. She went back upstairs and tried to go back to sleep, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, until the first light of dawn began to creep through the curtains.